Hey Casey, okay, let's take a look at your poses here. After a lot of playing around with my chosen pose and asking advice from others, I decided on straightening the screen left leg and create a stronger line of action. Okay, great. So, yeah, good poses overall. Like I think what you're getting here with your thumbnails is nice and loose, and you're thinking about the line of action. Obviously, I'm seeing that in your sketches, like through here. The main note I have, like I really like that you're with this pose, or these two poses here, that you're trying to redraw the same pose. And I'd say that's what you should do with the one that you picked, is just like take that and do another page of just that pose. And you know, it doesn't have to be 10 other poses of that, but I mean at least 3 or 4. Just until you feel comfortable with that pose and redrawing it, and that's something that you can keep working on, that line of action and all those things that make up the pose on paper, and do that before you start going into Maya and going into the rig and working with that. Now a lot of that is like you're just getting into that mode, and it's okay to kind of stray from your source material once you get that thumbnail down, but you're getting yourself into that mindset of, okay, this is the pose I'm working with. So let me draw it again, let me try different angles here, let me just explore it a little bit more. And then when you go into Maya, do the same thing, like get that pose down, and of course it's obvious that's what you're doing, just from your note, like you're playing around with it a lot, and that's okay, but well, that's actually a very good thing. But it helps a lot when you do that on paper as well before going into the next step. So that's my only note with that and with your sketchbook. Like otherwise, I think everything is looking really good. I would actually suggest you could loosen up a little bit more and think about, like, your drawings are nice, but it's less about nice drawings and more about just like getting that idea down on paper and just like really going with stick figures. Like that's what I do if I'm going to do a pose. Like I just try to get that line of action, and I don't worry about like how it's going to how the drawing's going to look. Like I don't care about that. I care more about like how my pose works overall, like how the silhouette works, and how, you know, I don't even know what I'm drawing here, but you know, if I did that, then I'd say, okay, like let's try that again in a different line and explore it maybe from a different angle, and just like keep doing that. But stick figures are the way to go, just because it creates a sense of looseness, and it just makes you think about, okay, let's get that gesture down, and let's think about what's important about this pose, and less about like getting that drawing to be super nice or whatever. So, but I mean, that said, if you're getting these drawings out pretty quickly, it's kind of like on that line of like it's not too polished, and that's okay. It's just like I think you could get a little bit scratchier with these drawings, and that's fine as long as you're getting them out quickly. So let's go over to your pose here, and yeah, that looks good. I like that. So it definitely does have that strong line of action. I think that straight leg helps that. With the overall balance, and this is something that we'll learn as we explore poses on characters and everything, I think it's pretty good, but I would try to make a key pose a little bit more balanced, and just thinking about, like, unless the idea of the shot is that your character is about to fall over, then try to think about it as okay, that if this is my storytelling pose, then it should be a little bit more balanced, and my character isn't going to fall over. So that said, you're close here, but one thing to think about is like where the weight is over what's keeping everything up, and what's keeping everything up is this foot. And so we want to maybe bring some of that weight back, and of course Stu's giant head kind of gets in the way of that sometimes, but what I would suggest is just like taking the cog controller and rotating it up back this way, like keeping it going that way. So we're just bringing the head and neck over that line of action a little bit more. And or I'm sorry, over that line of the weight line here, like this, and like bringing that neck to be like right around here in this area. So you're really getting a sense of more balance there over that weight. The rest of it is looking really good. I mean, I think one thing I really like that you did is keeping the curvature of the spine consistent along every segment. Like you're not bending one part too much over the other, because a lot of times that when students first grab a rig and they start messing with it, like that'll be the first thing I see, is that one area bends way too much than the other. You're keeping that, like you're thinking of the spine as one single unit, even though there's a bunch of different units that are bending. It bends together, and so like if I'm doing this, there's going to be all those bends that happen, and they bend at approximately, of course, like this top part is bending more, but that there's a proportion to it that's happening, and you're getting that. And then the other thing I really like is that you're bringing that neck out. You're showing that with your character, because this pose is really big and really pronounced, and there's you know, you want to, your character's body is like really extended, and so we want to see that extension in the neck. So it looks like you took that what I told you guys in the Q&A, and took that translation, like actually translated the head up so we can see that neckline, because a lot of times that head, because it's so big, it'll stack on top of the neck and we won't see it. My only other note is that with the hands, I would say try less bending of the fingers. If you do that, like that feels pretty uncomfortable, and it's not something that you see a lot. Like if you're doing this sort of gesture, then the bend happens more along the wrist than it does along the fingers. And of course, like you can extend that and make it a little bit more pronounced. But I would watch out from doing that too much. I think that you can get just as much out of this pose, and in fact even more, if you keep the fingers less bent backwards and more like what a natural hand pose would do. I said this in Brandy's critique, that if I have some notes on going over hand poses, so if I don't go over it tomorrow, or if it looks like I'm not going, if I forget, please remind me, and I'll go over the hand poses and just clarify that a little bit more. But yeah, overall, a lot of that time, so like with this one I drew on this left hand, the fingers don't have to extend back, but with this one you could bring that wrist down, like rotate it down, and so you're getting that same sort of action and same sort of gesture, but just with hands that feel a little bit more natural. But you're using the wrist more than you are the fingers. Okay, so yeah, overall looks really good. You did a great job on this, and going from your original vision. The only thing I would say is just work on your thumbnails a little bit. The pose that you pick in thumbnails, work on that a little bit more. Like do 3 or 4 versions. Do multiple versions of that one pose that you like. And just, yeah, think about the weight and the balance of the character. But that's it. All right, Casey, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.